My name is Stefan. I lead product and engineering at FinDock. Today I'm joined by Lawrence, Senior Product Manager at FinDock, and together we will present you an overview of all the changes and updates and enhancements we have made to FinDock with the July 26 release. In our contact details are here. If you have additional questions, please do feel free to reach out to us or reach out to our support team or your customer success representative. Before we start, I do want to highlight that this session will be recorded and the recordings and the slides will be shared afterwards and also will be posted as usual, included in our release notes and also posted on our YouTube channel. Now, everything that we will share, that we will be talking about, will be released to your production environments on Sunday night, the 19th of July, and is already available to you in your sandbox environment. You can read about it in the release notes on docs.findock.com, and you can see more information about these scheduled maintenance windows on status.findock.com to get an overview of all the live and maintenance updates. Today, we will give you an overview of the release using our traditional four-heading format. Today, we will focus on FinDock for Experience Cloud, FinDock Experiences. We will focus on e-mandates in the Netherlands. We will focus on outbound payments processed by GoCardless, and we will give an overview of a big list of small wins that make a big difference. But before we do that, we do like to give you also an update on our running pilots and betas. So as you may know, it's not every product is in the same maturity stage at the same time, and when we release new functionality, we tend to grow in maturity by first starting in pilot, then moving to beta, then moving to GA. And with the July release, we're really happy that two of our pilots will move towards beta with Paya and with GoCardless credit transfer, as you will just see later. And then we start a new, very exciting two pilots with Dutch e-mandates and with Experience Cloud compatibility and out-of-the-box components, which is really cool and really exciting, and we will show you all about. Then you can also see here that the release after, we plan on moving ahead with, for example, with our Paya processor, but also with some other items to move them to GA or from pilot to beta. And with that, I'd like to introduce Lawrence, who will start taking you through the FinDock experiences.
Yes, thank you, Stefan. So my name is indeed Laurens Wapenaar. And the first thing I'd like to talk to you about and also show you are our Experience Cloud features. In the previous webinar, we already talked about this feature and described a lot about the elements of this feature, but I do want to take you again through most of these things, as we've done many updates. And also, if you weren't able to come to our previous webinar. So what we're building here is an end-to-end online payment experience that's deeply integrated into Salesforce. We are building a solution that works for any team, any organization, whether you are trying to do fundraising or whether you're trying to do membership collection or collect rent or provide loans. This solution should work for you. That does mean it has to be super flexible, and we're going to be using Salesforce out-of-the-box tooling with Experience Cloud and Flow, added with our custom development, but without requiring you to do custom API development. Any of these elements can be mixed and matched to fix your exact requirements, whether it's a specific country requirement or a specific industry requirement. And I'll talk a bit about those elements in a bit. Obviously, everything we're building here is secure. It's compliant, specifically also accessible, so WCAG compliant, which is a requirement in the European Union. So it can be used by all payers safely and securely. Before we go into it, first a little bit about why are we doing this. We've always had two types of solutions or features that you could use to build front end, so online payment experiences. One If your budget was small, and also your requirements were limited, then we would have out of the box giving pages and pay links that were especially pages included in your base fee. If you wanted something more complex and also had a bigger budget, then you could build your own on our payments API, giving you full control over the UX, also which requirements you cover, but having to spend more resources. In between, in some industries and in some regions, we had ISV partners that have ISV partners that have out-of-the-box integrated solutions with our API. But in many regions and in many industries, we did not have a solution for this middle part. And that is the gap we're trying to plug. We also think, as a side effect, we will make building your own solution with almost full control over UX UI much easier than it was before. So what are the elements that we're using? We're using mainly 3 elements, but obviously this can be extended with any Salesforce tooling that you would like to use. The first element is Experience Cloud, and specifically Experience Cloud sites, so public sites, which comes with your Salesforce subscription. But the solution can also be extended to use the login experiences that Salesforce offers with Experience Cloud. The second part is Flow, which we will use to build payment forms. And the third essential part of the solution are FinDock components that integrate with our payment API that do the generic payment bits. Combined, these things can help you create an end-to-end payment experience on top of the Salesforce platform. So Experience Cloud will be our website builder. And the reason we chose this is that it's, especially if you use public sites, this comes with the platform. So any Salesforce organization has this. And it has become a very mature, what you see is what you get builder, where you can drag and drop specific elements, add text, add images, change the structure of the site, all from your Salesforce environment without writing any code. It's also integrated with the free content management system of Salesforce. If you want to go beyond simple pictures and want to manage your content in a more structured way, then Salesforce has an out-of-the-box solution that's also included with your Salesforce subscription. One very key point is that everything you build in Experience Cloud is both performant, but also responsive out of the box on any screen side, so on desktop and mobile, and you can configure the responsiveness in detail. The second part is Flow. Also Flow has become a mature product with a lot of features when it comes to form building. So you can add all kinds of components, from simple text inputs to pick list to text blocks or data tables or address elements, all from your Salesforce environment and all familiar to your admin. Now, on top of that, Flow offers a lot of flexibility around data validation, but also around logic. So if you want to show or hide a certain field based on logic, maybe some data input that you collect before in an earlier stage in the form, or based on some data that you pass to the form, or some data that you query in your Salesforce environment, Flow offers you very detailed and very advanced features to do so. For instance, in some regions, if you donate more than 100 euros, you need to ask for an address and collect more data. One important and key element of this is that Salesforce has worked a lot on the integration between Flow and Experience Cloud, so that what your payer sees is not a standard Flow screen that you would see in Salesforce, but a payment form that is styled in the same way as your Experience Cloud's website, but you can style any way you like. So it takes the theme of the site. So it doesn't look like a flow form. It looks like whatever you want it to look like. While we want to stick as much as possible to standard Salesforce features, so you can benefit from anything Salesforce does and integrates, there are parts where we believe we need to build custom components. These are mainly the parts around where you would interact with our payment API, and parts that are super payment specific and are highly standardized. So the main components that we've currently built and are in the product are a payment method selection component, which requires specific logic, but also as a lot of different elements like icons and labels and parameters that you would want to show or pass. And the second thing is a payment button that initiates the payment. And here again, this would otherwise require coding towards our payment API and quite a bit of logic to handle. Now you can use this, but you obviously don't have to use either or both. So if you don't offer multiple payment methods that you can select, you can simply only use the payment button. Or if you want to have super specific logic around interacting with the API, you can only use the payment method selection button component. Either works. And one key element here is that you're also able to use these components inside of your own Lightning Web components. So if you don't want to use Flow as a payment form and prefer building your own, you can do so, but still benefit from these standardized components that interact with our API here and focus on the things that are not payment related or specific to your organization in your custom build. Now, to get you started, because obviously there's three pieces to this. There's the Experience Cloud side, the Flow forms, and the components. We are building templates, so Experience Cloud templates and Flow templates wired together with our payment components, so you can get started quickly. Now, once you get started with them, you can still change anything you like, because that's how Salesforce deals with Flow templates and site templates. So if you don't like the theme, or if you don't like which fields are shown on the form and would add a lot of logic, you can simply do so. These are just there to make sure that you get a quick start. We are building several templates that you can find on FinDock Labs, and you can also deploy from there for different use cases, and that's something I'll be showing you in a bit. Now, we believe that the benefits of these three pieces together are big. So they allow you to build very intricate, personalized experience using all the Salesforce data that you have, and everything that makes your organization unique. They are flexible, so you can adapt them to any country or any use case. You can do so without code, or with a little bit of code, or with more code if you'd like to do so. But with the tools familiar to your Salesforce experts in your organization. And finally, everything is Salesforce native. So you can leverage anything Salesforce has to offer, any Salesforce Cloud, Data 360, Agentforce, or Marketing Cloud, or any other feature that Salesforce offers from Flow, from Experience Cloud, and through our components, giving you an almost endless amount of possibilities on how to interact with your payers and how to interact with your own organization and internal systems. That's enough talking about it. Now it's time to show you some of the things we've been working on. So first, what I'd like to show you is basically the same as I showed you last webinar. However, we have done quite a bit of iteration on our donation template. So what you see here is an Experience Cloud template with a flow template and our out-of-the-box components. We've done major work on the configuration of it, also quite a bit of work on what the template looks like. And one of the main points of improvement is that we have made an unmanaged component for donation amount and frequency selection. That's part of the template, but that is fully open for you to adjust. This component that is part of the template has settings you can set, so you can choose whether you want to show one time or monthly, what presets amount to use and how many, what currency to use, other elements like this. But because it's open, you can adjust it any way that you like. So if you want to add more frequencies, don't like the way we handle certain amounts and things like that, you can adjust it to whatever you like. We've also done quite a bit of work on the components that are part of the product and managed by FinDock. And one key component to this is obviously the component that helps you select a payment method. This component has inside of the flow a configuration element. So this is can all be done inside of flow, exactly where you built the form. And what we've done is that we've made it as intuitive as we can. We're still iterating on this, but basically we've taken what we learned from giving pages and pay links and applied them to this new component. So what can this component do? It shows you a list of all the payment methods and processors available in your environment. It allows you to search for specific payment methods and processors. And it also allows you to set the order in which you want to show these payment methods and processors in the front end to nudge people towards a certain preferred payment method. Now, what can you do here? So let's say we want to enable Ideal and we want to use Stripe to do Ideal payments. We go to those settings. We select a one-time payment. It tells me my configuration is invalid because I haven't selected a merchant account or target yet, which I can do here. And it also shows me which additional parameters are available in the payment API that I could set. Now for Ideal Stripe, these are limited, but for instance, for credit card Stripe, let's say we want to use that for recurring payments and use that as the default payments, I could set a description that would end up in a customer's bank. Now, in the places where we feel there is benefit of being very flexible, for instance, a bank statement description that you may want to personalize based on input in the form, so first name or last name, or a specific campaign somebody is donating to, we have made it so that you can use either text, so for instance, thank you for your donation, which would be not very personalized, but also to use flow variables. So in flow, you can obviously create resources, which can be formulas, static text, anything basically. And all of those can be used to set these values. Similarly, it could be that you have a lot of different merchant accounts because you have a lot of different entities or local entities. So this is something that could be flexible, even though maybe the payment methods that you want to offer are the same. Then you can also use a flow variable to set this dynamically based on something you know about the user, something that was passed into the URL when they clicked the link to go to your website, or any other logic that you have in your organization. We're still working on this, so we're happy to know what you think about it and whether you were able to get things working. But once we have now enabled these payment methods, you can also see in the overview what's actually enabled and which payment method is the default. So we've done a lot of work here, and we expect to keep improving on this in the near future. Now moving on from what we built the last release and improved upon to new things. So next to our donation template, we've now also made a generic checkout, which can be used to check out something on an e-commerce website, a membership, a subscription, anything basically that needs to be paid, and then adjusted flexibly. So the template out of the box looks like this when deployed, but you can change anything about it. Again, though, it has a couple things from FinDock out of the box. So the amount and frequency, so it shows an amount, which is something you can configure, but the payment method selection component is again the one that we configure in our environment. And the same thing for the payment button. This is something that FinDock offers out of the box and integrates with our API. Now, in this case, we could select the credit card here, and I'll refresh the page just to be sure. We can press the pay button, and then we will be redirected to Stripe to complete our transaction. In this case, let's do a card payment, but obviously this can be any of the payment methods that we have selected and have made available. And when you pay, you are redirected to a success page that you can set yourself. You can choose to have a very specific success page. You can make it part of the form and basically redirect back to your payment form. In this case, I've chosen an example domain, but as you can see here in the URL, it says success. That's important to say. You can do anything you like here. We've seen many versions where you go back to the form and follow up with the next step, but ending up on a success page in itself obviously could also be fine. Now, what does this look like? It has a couple pieces to it. So let's first check out our website, our Experience Cloud website, which can be found in the Digital Experiences home under Sites, where we have our checkout page. And inside the builder, we can basically see all the elements that you saw on screen before. So we see that we have a header here, which has a text block with our backlink. We've made 3 simple sections, and a footer where you can add anything. And in the middle, you see an image, which can be anything, can be the product that somebody's buying, the logo of your organization, some photo to further induce people to pay, and also some text here, secure payments at the bottom to instill confidence, but you can make anything, add anything you like here. In the middle, though, you'll find our flow, and this references the checkout flow that we are using here. If you would want to change this page, so let's say you also want to show some data about the product somebody's buying or the subscription somebody's buying. On the left, you could choose, for instance, to instead of have 1 column here, change this to use 2 columns, or 3 or 4. And then you could decide to have the flow on the left or on the right. In this case, it went on the left. And then to this column, you could add a lot of different elements. So for instance, if we wanted to add some text here, we could add a text block saying, This is for your subscription. We could add an image here of the product itself. You could even add something much more specific using your own Lightning Web Components if you want to go fully custom and add additional actions here. And this is how simple things are in Experience Cloud. If you want to ever change something about the form, we need to go to flow. So here we have our checkout flow. And the flow we just went through with this new payment is basically only these two steps on the right-hand side. So here we have our payment screen with our payment method selection component that can be configured, with our payment button that can be configured, but also, as you can see, a text element. And this display text basically determines what you show at the bottom, and anything we show there can be changed here. So here you see we have hard-coded, or basically had added statically that this is for FinDock for Gibbons. This is obviously something we could change. And our indication on what to do with the payment method selection component. But you can also see we have a couple references here. And these references reference flow variables that can be dynamic. So in the case of the checkout page we just had, it would be 176 euro, and the frequency was one time. But if you were paying something else, obviously those two would be different. Now these elements refer to flow variables that you can find here, and those can be super simple, or they could be a dynamic formula that changes what amount that you see here based on where you're getting the amount, or even change the text from pay to set up recurring. You can do anything you like in Flow using standard Salesforce formulas or resources in here. Currently, the data that we're passing is something that we assign here, but you can imagine that you can get this data anywhere. This could be an order record you create if you're doing an e-commerce kind of thing. This could be a membership record that could pass some values. You could even query Salesforce to get some more data about the person or the use case, a product, anything you like, and then pass it to our component. On the other half of the flow, we went to a slightly more complicated, but also still quite simple use case. So what we are doing here, instead of creating a new record, so a new installment in Salesforce, we are paying an existing record. So what we are doing here is we are getting an installment or a recurring, depending on what we're trying to pay here, or whether we are trying to change the payment method on an existing recurring. And then we are going to the payment screen. Now, again, looks basically the same, although in this case, we're also showing a recurring amount if that's available, otherwise it will stay empty. And again, here we can change anything you like. Now we have split these flows so that instead of setting up a new payment, we are paying an existing installment. We are doing that by simply mapping the installment ID that we get from the URL, and I'll show you in a bit, to this field in our component. And practically, that's all you need to do to get the installment paid. The same for recurring. If we have a recurring ID, we can pass it in here, and then things will go smoothly. Now, on the other end, if we were creating a new one, we could simply set the amount, the currency, the frequency, and create any kind of data that we like, and also pass any kind of additional fields to this component. Now, how does this work in practice? So I have an example installment here for the amount of 20 euros with the bank statement description of invoice 01234. And what I've done based on the GUID that FinDock automatically generates, I've created a link to my Experience Cloud page. Now, as you can see in the URL, we are passing the GUID ID, so the external ID of the FinDock installment object that FinDock always generates. And we are passing it in the URL, and it will then be passed to the flow. And this is a native feature of Salesforce, both on the Flow and Experience Cloud side. Now again here, what you can see here is the data that's on this installment. So we didn't set it in the flow, but we queried a specific installment in the flow based on this ID. So we passed the GUID and we searched for the installment, and then we got the data from Salesforce in our component. So again here, if we would pay this, we would select ideal in this case. We would get to Stripe. And for Stripe, we have to enter our email and then process it, and are then redirected to success page or affiliate page in case we fill the payment. Then FinDock, as you are used to, automatically updates our installment. Everything we're doing here is something that's possible with our current API. So we use our own API. So everything also worked like you are used to. In this case, we set the installment to collected, and the open amount goes to 0 because we have paid this. Related to this, there'll be a payment record, so you can track exactly how it was paid. But this is possibly the most simple way to pay in Salesforce. Now, I understand this is a lot to remember, so I'd like to remind you about the recording that we'll put up on YouTube. But we have written for this pilot very detailed documentation, so you can do all of this in your own time. And both of the templates that I showed are available on FinDock Labs. So if you go to GitHub and search for FinDock Labs, you will find Experience Cloud templates, and you will find a repository, as this is called, that refers to a set of templates for different use cases that we are expanding on. So for instance, if you want a donation page, there'll be a donation page. If you are not a fundraiser, there'll be a checkout page, and we'll also add different variants of the forms itself, depending on what you need there. Now, as this is FinDock Labs, and FinDock Labs is by definition open to everybody. We do appreciate and accept contributions, both through templates, but also to our templates if you feel something can be improved. So that's what I wanted to show you. So back to our slides. This is a pilot, but we are looking for pilot participants. We will share a form in a link to a form in the chat. But the link is also available in the documentation on the website. And even if you can't find the link to the form, feel free to reach out to either me directly at laurens@findock.com or our support department, and they will be able to find you. Also, if you would like to contribute to the out-of-the-box templates on Labs, or whether you would like to extend the quite basic templates with your own development, please feel free to reach out to us, and we are glad to help you. And that's it for FinDock Experiences today. but there's more to come here. On to another topic, slightly different, and about e-mandates in the Netherlands. So from online experiences to the more processing side of things and the operational side of things. If you think about SEPA direct debit, there are strict rules on signing a mandate. You need to have a legally signed mandate, or your position in the case of disputes is weak. And a reversal of a direct debit, and even just the process of a dispute, is pure loss. If you can't defend yourself, you will lose the transaction, the full payment. You will receive a fine, which can go up to €100, and you as an organization can erode trust with customers. You get flagged with your bank. Basically, there's reputational damage here. Now, currently, there are many ways to get compliant. We'll talk about those in a bit. But some of the solutions that you would need to get a digital signature, for instance, would require you to get a third party. And PSPs do not help you here because they do not offer these solutions. But before we get into that, what are these solutions and what are these mandates? So if you just do an online sign up, this works and you will not be blocked by the bank, but there will be no signature. And obviously this gives you a weak standing. You can get a signature on paper and then create a PDF and upload it to your Salesforce environment. And this is considered very legal, gives you a good position, but still payments are reversible up to 13 months. The same is true for qualified electronic signature on a signed document. So for instance, signing on a PDF, but still there is a stronger solution. In the Netherlands, and I do need to state that what we've built for this release is specific to the Netherlands. There is a way to get an advanced signature that is validated by the debtor bank by logging into your bank. And this will immediately lock the payment after 8 weeks. And this is what we call an e-mandate. Again, this is for the Netherlands because this is a solution offered by Dutch banks. There are similar solutions in other countries. So for instance, Sweden, where we also have a solution. But today, what we've built is an integration through something called Incassomachtige by the Dutch Payment Society, which captures, then signs and stored mandates straight in Salesforce without a third party. So how does this work? Basically, you try to set up a direct debit as normal. So you show somebody the amount they need to pay, whether it's a one-time or recurring. But then instead of just typing in their bank account, you start the sign-up process. And the way this works is they select their bank. We, FinDock, redirect them to their bank, to their own bank, where they sign in. So they authenticate with their bank, which is a very strong indication that the person that you are trying to set up a direct debit for is indeed the person you are dealing with. The bank validates this in real time as much as possible, and then confirms the mandate. We then store this information in Salesforce. We'll have an electronic signature that we can pass to the bank, but also store proof that this whole process was followed. So in the case of a dispute, you can show this proof that indeed the payer or the owner of the bank account went through this entire process and signed the mandate at the bank. There will also be an electronic signature involved, which will be passed to the bank when we try to collect the direct debit. So the bank also knows at that point in time that this was a signed mandate, giving you a stronger chance that the payment will go through. Still, not all banks offer this, and you may not have a contract with your bank, so it will still be possible to go another route, so signing on paper or with a digital signature tool, if the payer enters their IBAN and holder name. This is obviously the quickest version, but gives you less of a standing in the case of disputes. But it's up to you to decide what to use. So what does this mean for you? So this gives you a way stronger dispute position, and also you have a much stronger indication of what your revenue is going to look like, because the chance of reversals is lower and the reversal period is lower. This is all integrated into our solutions, so into our API, into Paylinks, into Pages. It's all native to Salesforce, so all this data stays inside of your Salesforce environment, and you can simply do this on top of what you already have. Like I mentioned, we have a similar solution live in Sweden. We are now starting a pilot in the Netherlands, and in the future, we could see going to other countries and adding more signature types. If you want to try this or talk to us about what this could add, please talk to your customer success manager or send us an email. But please be aware that this is part of the paid add-on for e-mandates of FinDock. So on to another new feature, outbound payments with GoCardless. So what we're talking about here is sending money out instead of in. FinDock already can do this in the SEPA region with credit transfer with our bank-based payments. But we've now added a similar feature on top of the faster payment scheme through our GoCardless connector. But everything still works from Salesforce. So why would you want to do this? So while FinDock automates payments going in, many organizations still do money going out manually by entering wire transfers in their banking portal. So finance has to work in multiple systems to do different things, like sending funds instead of doing it from Salesforce, like for collecting funds. That also means these payments are processed outside of Salesforce, which means they're not automatically shown in Salesforce. Also means you can't benefit from all the automations that the Salesforce platform offers you, leading to potential errors, more risk, but also not having the data available in your Salesforce environment. That means you have no unified view of all your transactions, and your organization has to look in multiple places or tie multiple systems together instead of everything reconciled in the same place and visible in the same place. So with FinDock, you can do inbound collections on top of the Salesforce platform, but now also in the UK, outbound disbursements. And this is something that almost every organization needs. So we see use cases for credit unions that need to disburse member loans. We see insurances where claims need to be paid out, but also agents need to be paid, for nonprofits who send out grants and pay their vendors, for lenders, basically any type of organization that receives money also sends money. And what do you get with FinDock? You can fully automate this system, including with native features of the Salesforce platform, like approval flows. GoCardless has built-in fraud detection and prevention measures, and allows you to have an approval flow, an additional approval flow, transactions that are executed are visible in your Salesforce environment in real time, and they're done fast because this is built on the faster payment scheme in the UK. And in the end, tying all of this together in one platform and automating it will lead to lower running cost. For this feature too, if you would like to talk to us about using this and the benefits of it, and or try it out, talk to your customer success representative. And also here, this is part of the existing outbound payment paid add-on. So that's it for the big features. Lots to talk about, and now it's back to Stefan.
Thanks, Lawrence. Exciting new features also with the Experience Cloud components, the templates, e-mandates, and outbound payments. But there's also a lot of smaller items that we have been working on. First highlight I want to is that we made 2 real improvements to guided matching. Really cool. So one is that you can now also select multiple installments in the guided review component and stage. So if you need to manually match an incoming transaction to multiple installments, for example, because it's across a list of invoices, you can now clear this faster and easier using guided matching. The second one is for all our customers that are also big on Data 360. Already in guided matching, you could query data from your org into guided matching, and now we extended that also with a query Data 360 rule, allowing you to query any of your data that is persisted in Data 360 or persisted that is available to you in Data 360, which is a better use, yet you can use to match better, to create data with improved quality and more sharp in higher resolution. So if you have a lot of transactional data or more marketing oriented data available to you in Data 360, then you can use that to enable your guided matching logic also really smoothly now. Then there is a long list of smaller improvements across our platform, across packages, across processors, and across payment methods. And don't worry, I won't read them out all, but if there are specific ones that are interesting to you, they are all detailed, being in a detailed fashion being covered in our release notes. What I do want to highlight is from a general side is the connected apps upgrade. So we made an update with the Salesforce security changes recently around the way we store OAuth tokens and improve the security posture of your tokens. Secondly, we made an update and we moved, as we usually do, or Apex to the new Apex version 67 runtime, which in this time is a big deal because of the user versus system mode changes if you're technical. I think really interesting, really cool that we can bring this feature and be more safe and secure and less privileged by design. On the second slide, you can see more. There's updates across our sources, across our processors, and across our platform. Please do spend the time in the release notes to read it all, to go with it. And if you have a question, do reach out to your CSM representative, to us, or email support. And with that, thank you all for joining this release webinar.